Homeowners Association rules, regulations, and dues can be frustrating at times, but real estate expert Linda Craft is here to explain why your home value may be more protected in neighborhoods with an active homeowners association and a professional property management company. This is so important. So what do you mean by an active homeowners association?
It's where the neighborhood have people that volunteer to be on the board. They start the social committees. They're involved with the architectural approval committee. The neighbors themselves care about the neighborhood and want to protect the values, and they communicate and work in conjunction very well with the property management company. So it's a combination, the neighbors and the management company.
All right. When a home buyer purchases a new home, you say they also buy into a neighborhood. They have 3 choices, each with advantages and disadvantages. Let's talk about the first one.
So the first one is they buy into a neighborhood with absolutely no homeowners association at all. And there are some people that are so anti-homeowners association, they don't want to be told what to do. They don't want to be told what color they can paint their house. And they just don't want that. And yet there's some risk that goes along with it, because not having someone to police the neighborhood and correct the behavior that you don't want in the neighborhood, you end up encouraging that behavior and it just grows.
Okay, so you've got some photos, and one of them is pretty peculiar. Legs sticking up in the front yard. What's up with that, Linda?
Yeah. So I went around and I shot neighborhoods of crazy colored, houses that you would never want to live next door to, pink and bright yellow. And there's this one home in North Raleigh, and it's in a great zip code, great area. And the person evidently has an artistic flair, because every time you drive by, he has something different in his yard. And he literally has a mannequin of a female's legs sticking right in the middle of his yard, and quite a few other things as well.
Okay, what about another photo you have where there's a bunch of cars and...
Sadly, I had a home for sale in a neighborhood with no HOA, and we had over 25 showings. Everybody kept rejecting the house because there were cars parked all around it, and there was a truck parked in the middle of the yard. And so the day I went by, and I did sell that home. Unfortunately, they had to reduce the price to get it sold. But when I went by that day to take a picture, one of the neighbors a few houses down came out and said, "Is there anything we can do about that?" And I was like, "No, because you don't have an HOA." And she went on to say that she didn't want to hurt her feelings, so she planted a hedge so that she wouldn't have to look at the house. But the key was she didn't want to hurt their feelings by saying something about how they were parking their cars. And yet that neighbor really hurt my seller's feelings, because he lost a lot of money on his house.
Right, and that's one of the risks, losing money.
It's one of the risks. You never know when you have no one to enforce the rules and regulations, you never know what's going to happen next.
Okay, also, there are restrictive covenants that can expire.
That's correct. So a lot of the older neighborhoods around the Triangle area, then restrictions started. They were in place with, whether or not you could park a car in the neighborhood or have art in your front yard. And after about 20 years, they expire unless the association renews them. Now, the good news is the newer neighborhoods today are writing into the covenants that they automatically renew. Because if your parents live in an older neighborhood, they're not going to think in 20 years they've got to get an attorney to renew those covenants.
Right.
They expire, and then you don't know what you're going to get.
So when you say you don't want a neighborhood with all these restrictions and everything, you really need to be careful what you're asking for.
Sometimes it can really cost you some money. And in the case of my homeowner that finally we sold it, he had to reduce his price $10,000 to get sold. So he could have paid homeowner dues for $300 a year for 10 years and still been $7,000 ahead. Or he could have paid for 20 years and still come out ahead.
Wow.
So, yes, you don't have to pay dues, and you have the freedom to do whatever you want. And if everyone around you keeps their yards very nicely maintained and doesn't park in the driveway and do those kind of things, you can save money and have a great neighborhood. And there are some of those out there, but what happens when they sell? Who moves in next?
This is such an important topic, and we don't have time to get through all of it, unfortunately, but we're going to pick it up next month.
That sounds
Can we
great.
do that?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Linda. If you need help with any of these maintenance tips, go to lindacraft.com and click on her Home Care Professional directory. You'll also find video on Linda's website if you want to share this information with your neighbors, family, or friends.